How we doing, everybody? Happy Sunday. It is April 29th, and I hope everybody had a chance to see Avengers this weekend. It did extremely well. I think it made $250 million in a weekend. So, as I was saying, I know that my time at the theater on Thursday was jam-packed. So it's going to definitely continue to break records. So I wanted to go through my choices for the in order of preference of the Marvel films to date. So, and again, this has nothing to do with any critic picks, or it may not even coincide with your opinions of what the better movies are, but it's purely my opinion. So I'm going to start with number 19, okay, and then we're going to move up to number 1. So number 19 for me is the original Captain America. I thought that Chris Evans did a great job, and the effects of making him smaller were great, but I think it was the weakest film out of the group as far as plot line outside of the origin story. So the origin story was exactly the same as the comics, but when they moved into the Red Skull and things like that, then I thought it got weak. So obviously the Captain America movies were amazing, but the first one I thought was kind of disappointing for me. Introduced some great characters, of course, Peggy Carter and things like that, but for me it was the weakest of the group. And let's see if they bring the Red Skull back now. We'll see what happens. So that's number 19. So moving on to 18 was Iron Man 2. I know that I was disappointed by the change of Rhodey in there. So I know that the actor from Empire, I know he upset some people on set or something to that effect, so they didn't bring him back. But I liked him in the first film, so it was kind of jarring to have Don Cheadle in there as a replacement, and then Whiplash as the villain. I don't think that film worked in a lot of ways. So anyway, that's Iron Man 2. Although watching Robert Downey Jr. as the role, he's always good in the role. I mean, he really embodies that role. He cares about that role. And it's always fun to see him, but the writing in comparison to Iron Man 1 was, I thought, very subpar. Alright, so number 18, Iron Man 2. Number 17, Thor, Dark World. And again, all these movies are really good. I mean, I walked out of there going, this is, for the Marvel Universe, they're always on step with the comics and things like that. So again, they're all good, but this is my order of preference of the actual of the series. So Thor: Dark World. Always love the comparison between him and Loki, and their relationship is always great. I thought that the whole dark matter thing for Dark World did not work. I did like Jane meeting Thor's mom and being in Asgard. I liked all that stuff. But, Malekith, they could have done such a better job with Malekith and that dark matter stuff. And I just think that didn't work. So, yeah, Thor Dark World could have been a lot better. But of all the Thor movies, that is the lowest of the group. But again, a good movie. But as far as in comparison to the others, Thor: Dark World didn't live up. Okay, number 16, Guardians of the Galaxy, Volume 2. This movie did not work at a lot of levels. What's great about it is that all the characters were, and I knew that was going to happen, that the characters are able to hold any story together. Because the characters are so different and unique, and they have such a camaraderie, and Chris Pratt does a great job of kind of hugging them all together. But the main storyline with Ego was not good. And it was, and then the end battle scene with him turning into Pac-Man and stuff like that. It just, none of that worked. What was great was, of course, they brought Mantis in. That really worked for me with her and Drax. The whole thing with Yondu and Rocket, that was great. And Nebula and Gamora, all that storyline was great. But the main storyline with his dad, with Peter's dad, just it didn't match the comics at all. Peter's dad is a dictator, and Peter was supposed to be taking over, but but he rebels and stuff like that, and he ends up fighting his father. That was a whole that was a lot better storyline than what Gunn came up with using Ego. So, having been him a living planet, it just didn't work for me. But anyway, again, the characters were great. I've watched it several times, but the whole Ego thing just didn't work. All right, moving on to number 15, Iron Man 3. So yeah, after the first Iron Man movie, in comparison to the first one, the other ones weren't as good. So this one. You know, the whole thing with Pepper and stuff like that, you know, I like the moving of their relationship, but the whole thing of Extremis, which was a great comic, by the way, but it did not translate into film, although the ending with all of the house party, that was really good. But the biggest problem with that film, Mandarin. We were, as comic fans, we were all looking forward to Mandarin, and because Mandarin was a huge part of Iron Man in the comics and in the cartoons and stuff like that. So Mandarin's a badass. But instead of bringing magic in, I guess they didn't want to bring magic in before Doctor Strange, because Mandarin has all these rings, and each one of the rings has a different power. But instead of doing that, they made him a foe. They made him, you know, a charlatan, and you know, he was an actor, and I don't know what the hell they did. But even if the Extremis, even if I went with the Extremis thing, where it was all right, but even if it was, the whole thing with Mandarin screwed it all up. So the ending of that film was great, but the whole thing of leading up to it was not good. You know, the destruction of his house, that was kind of cool and stuff like that. But then, of course, he was in the middle of nowhere with the kid trying to repair the armor. You know, he has PTSD, and a lot of that stuff just didn't work. So anyway, Iron Man 3 could have been better. All right, moving on. Number 14, Age of Ultron. For some reason, this film, even with all the Avengers in it, was not that great, and I don't know why. I know that the guy from Blacklist, I forgot his name, did the voice for Ultron. I don't know if I really liked the voice of Ultron at all. But some of the stuff was really cool, like the whole end battle scene when he had all the Ultrons, then they were fighting all of them. When Scarlet Witch came out the doors and started using her powers, of course, you know, the death of Quicksilver. You know, that was kind of sad. But the guy who played Quicksilver was the same guy that played Kick-Ass, believe it or not. So yeah, Age of Ultron, I just don't know what was wrong with it. But and of course we have to bring Vision in and stuff like that. but for some reason the film as a whole just didn't work. The little party was great, you know, the Doctor going, oh, is Thor gonna be there, you know, that kind of stuff. It had some good moments to it, but there was just something missing from it, and even after all this time, I just don't know what it is. I've seen the film multiple times, but I have no idea. Oh, the beginning was great, by the way, all the, you know, with them hitting the Hydra base and stuff like that, but again, something was missing from it. Don't know what it is. All right, moving on. Number 13, The Hulk. To date, the best Hulk movie ever done. Of course, there's only been 2. But the original Hulk film was really bad. Really bad. So it could only go up from there. I thought Ed Norton did a great job playing Bruce Banner. I actually prefer him than Ruffalo. I know, again, he's very hard to work with, supposedly. But I definitely prefer him. I loved his performance. You know, and again, they mirrored some of that with, you know, other Hulk pieces where he jumps out of the plane at the end because Hulk won't let him die. But he had the more of the tortured man syndrome than I think Ruffalo can pull off. So I thought Ed Norton did a great job. You know, unfortunately, they can't do another Hulk movie. That there was a rights issue or something like that. They can't do Hulk by himself, nor did it, you know, Hulk make money by himself. So, but anyway, I thought Hulk was good. Maybe not in the top 10, but it was definitely a good movie. Okay, so again, they're all good, but I'm just rating them in preference, and Hulk that had a lot of good stuff in it. And again, I'm waiting for them to do the Red Hulk storyline, which I hope they do. It's a really good story, and you know they've had the General in almost every movie now, so to have him pop up as Red Hulk would not be out of the question. So we'll see what happens in the next series of films. Okay, moving on. 12, Doctor Strange. So Doctor Strange, you know, with Cumberbatch did a great job, and he continues to do a great job in that role. You know, he has that little snarky thing about him. The origin story matched the comics perfectly. I love the ending, how he beat the villain. It was definitely different. But Doctor Strange by himself just doesn't have for me, he doesn't have the star quality. It's not the actor, but the character doesn't have the star quality that some of the other characters do on their own, like Iron Man and Captain America and stuff like that, and Thor. They have that star quality where they can exist on their own, and I just don't. I've tried to collect some of the Doctor Strange comics and stuff like that, and even the comics, the same thing. Like, he's better in a group. When he was in the Defenders and stuff like that, it was great. But as a character, I think he isn't strong enough to carry his own film. But again, you know, in Infinity War, it was great. You know, when he was in Thor, it was great. But I think by himself it just doesn't carry. So anyway, love the film. I thought they did a great job with it. But I had it at 12, so it's almost in the top 10 there. But again, that's why I think the detriment is that the character himself just can't stand alone. Okay, so moving on. I know you guys are gonna bash me for this, but Black Panther is my number 11. So Black Panther, loved Black Panther. I thought it was great, but again, not in my top 10. I think there was some better films in there, and I know everybody loved the villain, and he had a great reason for being. However, the way he was played, and somebody pointed this out to me, and I kind of agree. The way he was played was very urban, and for us to take him seriously as a leader, we couldn't really. I feel the same way. that I couldn't take him completely seriously because he was so urban. But I thought the film flowed very, very well, and it's almost in the top 10 for me. But I did not go see that multiple times. Where almost every other one of the films, of course, I'm going to watch it on DVD, but almost every other one of the films I saw in the theater multiple times. But Black Panther, I didn't. I don't know why. I mean, the cast of characters was really good. The woman from Walking Dead, great job. The sister did a great job. The film is good. I really like the film. But for some reason, I'm not looking forward to seeing it over and over and over again. So for that reason, and the way they did Wakanda was amazing too. But anyway, for that reason, it's not in my top 10. Anyway, going on to number 10. Ant-Man. So now we're in the top 10. So Ant-Man for me. And I've said this several times. When I was a child and I was reading Ant-Man, but most of the time, whenever I actually read Ant-Man, he was inside the Avengers. I think I had a couple of Ant-Man comics, but for the most part, I never collected anything from him except when he was with the Avengers. So, and of course, Giant Man and stuff like that. It was all Hank Pym. But never once when I was a child did I say, oh, I can't wait someday for them to make an Ant-Man movie. Never in my wildest dream did I have this, he's not even a second stringer, he's a third stringer. But yet, they did a great job with that film. And when I heard that Paul Rudd was playing the part, I'm like, oh, no, they're trying to make a joke out of it. But it had a lot of humor to it, but it wasn't a joke. They weren't making a comedy out of it. I thought all the actors did a great job. So I really love that film, and I love how they didn't take it completely seriously because, yeah, I mean, whenever they have this huge battle going, then they pull out and it's like a toy train. And I am looking forward to Wasp, to Ant-Man and Wasp going up. I'm really looking forward to that film. That's the next film. I think it's coming out in a few months. So I'm looking forward to that tremendously, and it's just a really, really fun movie. I think that's what it is. It's just a really fun movie, and that's what I love about Ant-Man. So anyway, number 10, Ant-Man. Okay, so now we're on to number 9, Spider-Man Homecoming. So Spider-Man Homecoming. I really, really liked, I think a lot of people really liked the reboot. There's some people that did not like it at all. Some people I talked to that they thought they went a little bit too far with it. But I really liked Spider-Man Homecoming. And I know they had to change Vulture a little bit to make that work. But he did a great job as Vulture. He's always great. And Tom Holland did an amazing job, continues to do an amazing job at Spider-Man. In fact, when I was watching Infinity War, when Tom Holland came on the screen in the bus, everybody clapped. So he is really, really well liked and respected by the moviegoers and the fans for rebooting that character and making him extremely likable. When he showed up in Civil War, even in the trailer, everybody was like, oh, amazing, because as you know, Sony owns the rights for Spider-Man films, and for them to be wise enough, because Fox hasn't been, for them to wise enough to say, you know what, we're losing it. We're losing the character. It's not making as much money, so we're going to give it back to Marvel for right now. And then I think they are going to take it back, but I'm sure that there's obviously a lot of money changing hands for that to happen. But they were wise enough to do that. Instead, Fox held all to their stuff, and Disney just bought them outright. So, because they destroyed Fantastic Four to the point where Marvel isn't even doing a Fantastic book. They just stopped Fantastic Four completely as a comic. But now they're bringing them back because this Fox deal is going through. But as far as Spider-Man Homecoming, I have no problem with, a younger Aunt May. I think that works. But, this political correctness of having, her name wasn't Mary Jane, but she went as MJ. So we have, I think she's a woman of color. She's also from The Greatest Showman, which she did a great job in there. But yeah, Spider-Man Homecoming was, it was good. The problem with Spider-Man Homecoming that I thought was the fact that they relied on the technology of the suit too much for the humor and stuff like that. He kept talking to the suit. I think that went on a little bit long. And Ned he just annoys me. He just annoys me. So I'm hoping they use him less, even though he was in Infinity War for a scene. But I hope they use him less in the next movie because he's just kind of annoying. Okay, continuing in the top 10. Number 8. That would be Thor Ragnarok. Loved that Thor Ragnarok. I thought it was great. How they went a little bit more into the comedy side, and I know a lot of people didn't like that. Again, kind of like Spider-Man Homecoming, where they took it a little too far. But I loved it. I thought it was great. Again, the chemistry between him and Loki just always keeps getting better. The whole scene where he goes, I don't want to do Get Help. That was great. And I liked, even though they changed Valkyrie, which I was kind of upset with, they didn't say it was Valkyrie, they said a Valkyrie. So, the blonde-haired Valkyrie with the blue cape and stuff like that, that's in the comics and was part of the Defenders, they could still bring her in. So they don't change it too much. But, of course, she's a great actress anyway. And I thought all of that really worked. And I thought that Hela and that performance was amazing. That was everything about that movie was just really, really great. And even Karl Urban's little role, he did a great. I love Karl Urban. I think he's great also. Anyway, really good movie, and of course the Rock guy stole his scenes every time he opened his mouth. It was. But we'll see if they continue with him now or if he's gone. So we'll see what happens. But that was Thor Ragnarok was great, and number 8 for me. Okay, the number 7, the original Thor. Yes, I think the original Thor was slightly better than Thor Ragnarok, not because of performances or anything else, but because of the novelty of bringing Thor to the screen for the first time. When we first see him, and he's in, Asgard in the chamber, and we get to meet the Warriors 3 and Lady Sif, and all that for me was great. Jane hitting him with the car. Although, Natalie Portman, especially reading the comics for Mighty Thor, where she is Thor right now, and of course I don't think she's continuing the role at all. But and having Odin and stuff like that, all that was great. I thought maybe they chose the wrong person for Jane Foster, especially now. But in the first film, it was fine. It was the second film where it was like, you could tell she really wasn't into it anymore. And of course, for the third movie, she's not even in it at all. But for the first film, and then having the Destroyer come in, and the Giants, and all that stuff was really great. So anyway, Thor, the first Thor movie, still a classic for me, and that would be number 7. Okay, and now we're moving into number 6, and number 6 for me would be the film that just came out, Avengers: Infinity War. Another great film. Actually, it's not great. What I call it is very good. Avengers: Infinity War was very good, and I think if you saw my my initial review, it's because it's kind of disjointed, bringing all these characters in and having to follow all of these storylines that jump back and forth and back and forth. Again, the novelty of it, of having all of these characters for the first time in any type of film, all together and all interacting is what makes the film what it is, and why it's going to make so much money, and why it deservedly is going to make this kind of money. Because normally, when you have these kind of people all in all these big name stars, now they're big. Of course, Marvel kind of made them those big name stars, but having them all in a film together, usually the egos would destroy something. But not in this case. I mean, I watched all the reviews of it, or all the previews and the articles about the filming and stuff like that. Not once was there a blow up on set, which was highly unusual. So you could tell that this camaraderie there, and which is unheard of. In fact, I get the news feeds for Golden Apple Comics, which is in Hollywood, and it seems that all of the actors showed up there. Again, you know, they're hanging out outside of the film. That's great, you know. So, but again, the problem with this is just it's a melting pot of superheroes. So that's why it's number 6 for me and not higher. All right, so number 6, Infinity War. All right, so moving on to number 5. Number 5 for me is the original Iron Man. The original Iron Man was great. It had almost no flaws to it. I could watch that movie continuously over and over and over again. You know, the villain was great. The whole origin story, for Tony Stark in that film was great. We saw a change in the character from the beginning to the end, and even in the end, they kind of alter the comics where he says, "I am Iron Man." You know, screw it all, I'm Iron Man. And I think that surprised everybody, but everybody was like, "Yeah, whatever. He's rich enough to be able to do that, and you know, keep his family safe." Which in number 3, he realized that could be a little bit of a problem. But the original Iron Man, you know, he catches the car and they roll over him. I mean, that was so much good stuff in that film. So it's the original Iron Man, the one that started it all. I mean, without that first Iron Man being successful, there would be no Marvel Universe. If Iron Man had failed, we would not see 10 years later what's going on. So great that it did launch this. But for me, Iron Man, number 5. Okay, so moving on to number 4, the original Avengers. Still the best Avengers. Joss Whedon did a great job in that film, introducing, you know, the characters and as a team, and not so much because, as you know, Hulk goes into a rampage, and you know, when he punches Thor for the first time, that was. I mean, you could watch that scene just over and over and over again. And the end when he when he takes Loki and just smashes him all over the place, and he's sitting there looking up at the sky in a crater of his own body. Great stuff. And in fact, they even allude to that in Ragnarok. He says, "See, that's what it feels like." That was all good stuff. You know, and Captain America taking charge. And this is where I think that in this film, because I don't think Captain America found his legs in the first movie. I think he found his legs in this one. Not only the actor, but the writing and the directing side of how to treat Captain America involved in this group really found its legs in the first Avengers film. And of course, from there they took off running. So, but yeah, first Avengers film, still the best of the 3 Avenger movies, in my opinion. Okay, so moving on to number 3. Moving on to number 3. Number 3 is Civil War. Captain America Civil War, which everybody calls this Avengers 2.5. Because all the Avengers are in it, might as well just be an Avengers movie. So of course, in the comics, Civil War is completely different. It starts for a completely different reason. And it's the same type of thing where they want to register superheroes, which kind of falls into the X-Men thing, because that's the whole reason that the X-Men are kind of in hiding and everything else, is that they have a Mutant Registration Act. So they kind of evolved that into the whole superhero side. But everybody was involved in Civil War. The Fantastic Four were a huge part of that. Of course, Fantastic Four was owned by Fox, so they could not introduce them into this. But it breaks up their family. So it was very, very interesting. But instead, it was just Tony and Cap that were really at odds here. But the war was a lot bigger in the comics, which of course they could not do. And again, with Infinity War doing it in 2 hours, you could see that by adding that many characters, was not really beneficial. So, and it's the same type of thing if they added all those characters to Civil War. But they got to introduce T'Challa in it. Civil War was just a great film, with the villain being Baron Zemo, who looks completely different in the comics, but Baron Zemo, kind of manipulating everything. Of course, the storyline with Bucky killing his Tony's parents. I'm not sure if that worked really well, but that was the spark that pushed everything. Of course, the end battle scene, etc., and him giving up the shield, all really great stuff. Civil War, and then of course the scene in the airport. You can't beat that scene. I mean, that scene was amazing, very, very good. So anyway, Captain America: Civil War is number 3 for me. Okay, so moving on to number 2, Guardians of the Galaxy. One of my favorite movies now of all time. I literally saw that movie at least half a dozen times in the theater. Anytime it was in the theater, anytime I wanted to see something else, I'd walk into it. No matter where it was and it's playing, I would walk into it just to see the rest of it, and I ended up sitting through the whole thing. I love that movie. I thought it worked on so many levels, and I wish that Volume 2 worked as well. But that was just a great film. So it was so exciting and jazzy and funny, and it's and I'm a sci-fi fan, so to have a sci-fi movie, it's even probably better than the last couple of Star Wars films, in my opinion, as far as being a sci-fi movie that's just fun to go to. But it made me feel like the old Star Wars movies, where you had this camaraderie of characters, and they're going off on this epic adventure, and they don't know if they wanted to be together or not, but they were shoved together. And it didn't really follow the comics all that much as far as the original thing, but I think it really improved it, to tell you the truth. I think that the Guardians of the Galaxy comics did not have what the movie did, and of course when they tried to they rebooted it before the movie with trying to introduce the characters again and stuff like that. But anyway, really good. Love Guardians of the Galaxy, and I can still watch that movie probably another half dozen times. Okay, so moving on to number 1. This is my number 1 pick of all the Marvel movies, and that is Captain America: Winter Soldier. For me, that is the best Marvel movie to date. Yes, I even like it better than Civil War. And I'll tell you why. Because the hero was feeling empathy for the villain. The villain and he had this personal relationship, and he literally would give his life to save his friend. And you can't beat that as a hero motivation. And he catches the shield at part of it, and I got to think back to when I first saw it, and of course I've seen it several times after that. But it was that was a really good movie, Captain America: Winter Soldier, and I think that really booted Cap into his place in the Marvel Universe more than anything else. And and even the Winter Soldier, all of his scenes were really cool. you know, using the arm to block stuff, and you know, and Black Widow had a huge part in that film. You know, even in the beginning on the boat and all that stuff, and then, you know, she uses the gauntlet to lasso the thing and jump down from the bridge. That was all really good stuff. And of course, even Winter Soldier, Bucky's attack on Nick Fury. All really good stuff, and I think that that's still my favorite. Mostly maybe because I like a lot of spy stuff and things to that effect, and I really think that held true to Cap's character all the way through. So anyway, that was my #1 pick, Captain America: Winter Soldier. So let me know below in the comments whether you agree or don't agree, and subscribe to my channel, and I will see you guys probably in a few days, because I'm going to be doing the updates on comics for this week. I'm almost finished. I'll probably be finished tonight with reading through them, and then I'm going to be doing a special after I finish reading The Death of Thor. So I will be doing an update on that as well. Alright? Have a good week, and I will see you guys in a few days.